The security guard's hand gripped my upper arm so hard it left a bruise that would stay purple for weeks. "Don't move, Maya," he growled, his breath hot against my ear. I looked down at my open designer bag on the mahogany conference table. The bag I had saved 3 months' salary to buy, the one I treated like a treasure. Tucked inside the silk lining, glittering like a taunt under the harsh fluorescent lights, was CEO Jack's $50,000 vintage Patek Philippe watch. My heart didn't just race. It stopped completely. Time seemed to slow down the way they say it does in car accidents. I could hear the hum of the air conditioning, the rustle of expensive suits, the collective intake of breath from the dozen colleagues standing around me in a semicircle of judgment. I looked up and saw Brooke standing behind Jack, positioned perfectly in his line of sight. She had her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with a fake watery shimmer that would have won her an Oscar. "Maya, no," she whispered, her voice cracking perfectly for the audience, hitting just the right note of devastated disbelief. "Tell them it's a mistake. Tell them you didn't do it." The betrayal felt like a physical blow to my stomach, the kind that knocks the wind out of you and leaves you gasping. I realized in that second, I wasn't just being accused. I was being erased. Everything I had built over 7 years, every late night, every successful project, every sacrifice, was being deleted in real time, overwritten by a narrative I had no power to stop. Before we continue, I would like to know where you're watching from in the comment section. Also hit the subscribe button and share this video, as this will help this video to travel far so others can learn also. "I'm disappointed, Maya," Jack said, his voice cold enough to freeze the air between us. His face, usually animated and friendly during our project meetings, was now a mask of stone. "I was going to announce your promotion to junior partner today. Instead, I'm calling the police." The words hit me like bullets. Junior partner. The position I had worked toward since the day I started at the firm fresh out of graduate school. The promotion that would have changed everything for me and my family. Gone in an instant. Brooke stepped forward, her hand touching Jack's sleeve in a gesture of concerned solidarity. "Maybe she's just going through something," she said softly, her voice dripping with false compassion. "I know she's been stressed about her mom's medical bills. The hospital called her 3 times last week during meetings." I gasped, the sound escaping my throat before I could stop it. She was using my personal life, the things I told her in confidence over lunch, the vulnerable moments I shared when I thought we were friends, as a motive for a crime she committed. My mother's cancer treatment, the mounting debt, the sleepless nights I spent juggling work and worry. All of it was being weaponized against me. The colleagues I had mentored for years turned their heads away. Sarah, whose presentation I had saved 2 months ago when she panicked before a client meeting. Derek, who I trained personally on our spatial mapping software. Jennifer, who came to me crying about her divorce and left my office with tissues and encouragement. Nobody met my eyes. I was a thief in their eyes now, and Brooke was the grieving friend, the loyal colleague devastated by my betrayal. "Get her out of here," Jack commanded, waving his hand dismissively as if I were nothing more than garbage to be disposed of. I was led through the glass-walled office, the walk of shame stretching into eternity. Every desk I passed felt like a judge's bench. The open floor plan that the firm was so proud of, designed to foster collaboration and transparency, now felt like a gladiatorial arena. Faces I recognized, people I had worked alongside for years, stared at me with expressions ranging from shock to disgust to barely concealed satisfaction. Office politics are cruel, and there's always someone who enjoys watching the mighty fall. My name is Maya Rodriguez. For 7 years I was the first one in and the last one out. I built the firm's revolutionary spatial mapping software from scratch, coding through weekends and holidays, turning a vague idea Jack mentioned at a Christmas party into a proprietary system that increased our productivity by 40%. I thought hard work was a shield, that competence and dedication would protect me from office politics. I was wrong, so terribly, devastatingly wrong. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Brooke's reflection in the glass. For a split second, the sad mask slipped. She smirked. It was the look of a predator who had just cleared the field, who had eliminated the competition and secured the prize. The elevator descended, and I felt like I was falling into a dark pit with no bottom. Before I continue, I want to acknowledge everyone who's followed this story. Your support means everything. Now, let me take you back to where this rivalry really began because understanding how we got here is crucial to understanding what happened next. The rivalry between Brooke and me wasn't a secret, but it was lopsided from the start. I was the brain, the one who spent weekends refining blueprints, checking load-bearing specifications, and diving deep into the technical minutiae that makes the difference between a good building and a great one. I loved the work itself, the puzzle of making spaces both beautiful and functional. Brooke was the face. She was polished, wealthy from a trust fund that could buy our entire office building twice over, and possessed a weaponized charisma that could charm anyone from janitors to board members. While I was in the trenches, covered in blueprint dust and surviving on coffee and determination, she was at cocktail hours with the board members, playing golf with investors, attending gallery openings with clients. I didn't mind it at first. I genuinely believed our skills balanced each other out, that we were two halves of a perfect professional partnership. I even helped her on her last 3 projects because she claimed she couldn't figure out the software. I spent hours sitting beside her at her desk, walking her through the same processes multiple times, creating detailed instruction guides with screenshots, troubleshooting her mistakes with patience. I thought I was being a good colleague, a team player. I didn't realize I was teaching my executioner how to use the blade. Every skill I shared, every shortcut I revealed, every technique I demonstrated, she was cataloging it all, learning not to work with me but to work without me. The day I was arrested. Yes, they actually put me in handcuffs in front of the entire office. I sat on my sofa for 6 hours without turning on the lights. The silence of my apartment felt heavy, like it was pressing against my skin, suffocating me slowly. My phone was dead. I had turned it off to avoid the standard HR termination emails, and the inevitable flood of messages from people who wanted gossip more than they wanted to offer support. I thought about the promotion. Junior partner. It came with a base salary of $250,000, more than double what I was making. It would have paid off my mother's surgery in a single year, covered her medication, given her the quality of care she deserved instead of the bare minimum her insurance would cover. Now I was a felon in the making, my career destroyed, my reputation obliterated. I looked at my hands, still shaking uncontrollably. Brooke hadn't just stolen a watch. She had stolen my future, my mother's health, my entire life. I leaned back against the couch cushions, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I should call a lawyer I couldn't afford or just accept that my life as I knew it was over. That's when my eyes caught the small black lens on my bookshelf. My work cam. My heart, which had been beating sluggishly with despair, suddenly thundered to life. I'm an expert in spatial mapping and architectural visualization, and I often recorded my own drawing process to create time-lapse videos for my portfolio and social media. The video showed my design process, how a building evolved from rough sketches to detailed plans, and they were surprisingly popular. Because our office was an open-concept workspace with minimal privacy, I had set up a high-definition, motion-activated camera hidden inside a hollowed-out architectural theory book on my desk. I used it to protect my intellectual property from idea poachers, colleagues who might glance at my work and present it as their own in meetings. It had happened before in my previous job, and I wasn't about to let it happen again. The camera was so well concealed that even the cleaning staff had never noticed it. I hadn't thought about it during the chaos of the accusation, the arrest, the humiliation. But now, I plugged the SD card into my laptop with trembling fingers, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it twice. The anticipation was agonizing as the files loaded. I scrubbed through the footage of Tuesday morning, the day the watch went missing. There I was, leaving for my coffee break at exactly 10:13, just like I did every morning. 30 seconds later, a shadow moved across my desk. Brooke entered the frame. I stopped breathing. I watched as she looked around nervously, her movements frantic yet calculated, the behavior of someone who knew exactly what they were doing but was terrified of being caught. She held the gold watch in her left hand, the precious timepiece glinting in the office lighting. She didn't just drop it in my bag carelessly. She tucked it deep into a side pocket, arranging it deliberately so it would be discovered at the right moment. Then, in a detail so cruel it made me gasp, she took my mother's framed photo from my desk, the picture of Mom from before she got sick, smiling on a beach in Mexico, and turned it face down. She looked directly toward my desk area, right at where the camera was hidden, but she didn't see it. The book blended perfectly with my collection of architectural texts. She just smirked, that same predatory smirk I had seen in the elevator reflection, and walked away with the confidence of someone who believed they had committed the perfect crime. I stared at the screen, replaying that smirk over and over, watching her casual cruelty in high definition. A hot, bubbling rage rose in my chest, volcanic and all-consuming, but I forced it down. My first instinct was to call Jack immediately, to scream, to post it on LinkedIn and ruin her publicly, to send it to every news outlet that covered business scandals. But I stopped myself. Jack had humiliated me publicly, led me out like a common criminal in front of people I respected. The firm had discarded me like trash without even pretending to investigate properly. If I sent this footage now, Brooke would claim it was a mistake or a misunderstanding. She would say she was testing my bag's security, or found the watch and was planning to return it, or manufacture some other plausible excuse. Her family's lawyers would spin it. The firm would want to bury the scandal quietly. No, I needed a bigger stage. I needed the kind of justice that couldn't be deleted, explained away, or swept under an expensive carpet. I needed witnesses who mattered. The shareholders' meeting was in 3 weeks. It was the biggest event of the year. A lavish affair where the firm showcased its achievements, announced major initiatives, and officially promoted key personnel. I knew Brooke was the only choice left for junior partner now that I was gone. The pieces clicked together in my mind like a complex architectural design finally finding its perfect form. I decided to play the broken victim. I didn't fight the termination. I didn't call a lawyer or file a wrongful dismissal claim. I didn't defend myself on social media or reach out to former colleagues to tell my side of the story. I let the office rumor swirl unchecked, that I had gone into hiding out of shame, that I was so guilty I couldn't even face anyone, that I was considering leaving the country. I needed Brooke to feel completely safe. I needed her arrogance to grow until it became a blindfold, until she was so convinced of her victory that she wouldn't see the trap until it closed around her. I contacted Marcus Chan, the IT director, through a carefully worded email that wouldn't raise suspicions if anyone monitored my correspondence. Brooke had insulted him for years, calling him the help in meetings, complaining about his tech guy smell, to anyone who would listen, treating him like he was beneath her simply because he worked in a support role rather than a prestigious design position. I met him at a quiet diner 40 minutes outside the city, a place where we wouldn't run into anyone from the firm. When I showed him the footage on my laptop, he nearly dropped his coffee, his eyes widening as he watched Brooke plant the watch. "She did this to you?" he whispered, looking at me with a mixture of horror and fury. "My God, Maya. This is sociopathic." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "Marcus, I don't want to just sue. I want her to lose everything in front of the people she's trying to impress. I want the shareholders to see exactly who they're about to make junior partner." Marcus looked at the footage again, watching Brooke's smirk, her casual cruelty. Then he smiled, and it was the smile of someone who had waited years for the perfect revenge. "The shareholders meeting uses a cloud-based presentation system that I maintain," he said slowly, his eyes gleaming. "I can give you backdoor access to override any presentation. She'll never know what hit her." For the next 14 days I disappeared completely. I didn't post on social media. I didn't answer calls from former friends at the office who suddenly wanted to check in, but really wanted gossip to share. I spent my time productively, studying the firm's annual report like it was a sacred text. I learned who the major shareholders were, their names, their backgrounds, their business philosophies. I learned their values, read interviews they'd given, understood what mattered to them. They hated scandal above everything else. They hated liability, public embarrassment, anything that might damage the firm's pristine reputation. Brooke was a walking, talking liability. She just didn't know it yet. I felt like a ghost, haunting the edges of my old life, invisible and patient, waiting for the right moment to materialize and reveal the truth. I broke my social media fast just once, unable to resist the temptation to check Brooke's profile. She had posted a photo of her new office, my old office, the space I had personalized with plants and artwork, and my mother's photo. She had redecorated completely, erasing every trace of me. The caption read, "New beginnings. So grateful that integrity and hard work win in the end. #blessed, #partner life, #dreams come true." I felt a chill run down my spine. She actually believed her own lies. She felt untouchable, invincible, protected by her wealth and charm, and the narrative she had constructed. Good. Perfect even. The higher she climbed, the more bones she would break when she hit the ground. The more public her triumph, the more devastating her fall would be. The meeting was being held at the Grand Plaza Hotel, a 5-star venue that cost more per night than I made in a month. I spent my last bit of savings, money I should have been saving for my mother's medication, on a dress that screamed board member, not fired employee. It was a sharp midnight blue silk dress that hugged in all the right places, paired with heels that added 3 inches to my height and my confidence. I looked in the mirror and didn't see the girl who cried in the elevator 3 weeks ago. I saw a woman who had calculated every variable, planned every contingency, prepared for every possible outcome. I practiced my walk in those heels until it was perfect. I practiced my breathing, the techniques I learned from a YouTube video on remaining calm under pressure. I wasn't going there to beg for my job back, or plead my innocence to people who had already judged me. I was going there to conduct an autopsy on Brooke's career, to dissect it methodically in front of everyone who mattered. The ballroom was filled with the scent of expensive perfume, catered hors d'oeuvres, and champagne that cost more per bottle than my weekly groceries. Crystal chandeliers cast elegant light over tables draped in white linen. I slipped in through the service entrance using a keycard Marcus had forgotten to deactivate, my heart pounding so hard I thought surely someone would hear it. I stayed in the shadows of the balcony, an architectural feature designed for dramatic effect that now served my purposes perfectly. Below me, the crowd mingled and networked. Brooke was there, wearing a white suit that probably cost more than my car, acting like the queen of the room. She was laughing with Jack, holding a glass of champagne, touching his arm in that familiar way she had, the way she made everyone feel like they were the most important person in her world. She looked perfect. She looked invincible. She looked exactly how I needed her to look before I destroyed her. The lights dimmed, signaling the start of the formal program. Jack took the stage, his presence commanding attention instantly. Good evening, everyone. This year has been one of extraordinary growth and challenges. He began, his voice amplified through the excellent sound system. He talked about the firm's vision, the new contracts they'd secured, the expansion into 3 new markets. Then his tone shifted, became more somber. We've also faced internal challenges, he continued. The unfortunate departure of a former staff member who didn't live up to the values we hold sacred: integrity, honesty, loyalty. The crowd tooted and murmured disapprovingly. I felt the sting of their judgment, even though they had no idea they were condemning an innocent woman, but I held my ground. But we move forward, Jack declared, his voice brightening. And now it is my honor to introduce our newest junior partner, someone who embodies everything we stand for, Brooke Harrison. The room erupted in applause, a thunderous sound of approval and celebration. Brooke floated onto the stage like she was walking on air, her smile radiant, her confidence absolute. She hugged Jack, waved to the crowd, soaked in the adoration like it was her birthright. She began a speech she had clearly rehearsed extensively. Thank you all so much. This is truly a dream come true, she began, her voice warm and sincere sounding. I want to talk today about trust and the architectural soul, about how we build not just structures but relationships, not just buildings but communities of integrity. As she spoke, she gestured dramatically to the massive screen behind her, a 30-foot display that dominated the stage. I've prepared a short presentation on the future of our firm, she said, pulling out a small remote from her pocket. I want to share my vision for where we're going together. She clicked the remote. The first slide was a professional photo of her, backlit and glowing. The second was a mission statement written in elegant typography. I looked up at the tech booth where I could just make out Marcus's silhouette. He gave me a sharp nod. The screen flickered. A low hum came from the speakers, the kind of technical glitch that happens sometimes in presentations. Oh, just a tiny technical difficulty. Brooke laughed, her voice bubbly and unconcerned. Technology, right? The crowd chuckled sympathetically. She clicked the remote again, trying to move forward. The screen turned black. Then, a timestamp appeared in the corner in white text. Tuesday, 10:14 a.m. The room went silent. The casual chatter stopped instantly. The image was high definition, crystal clear. It was my desk, my workspace, captured from the perfect angle. The audience saw me stand up, grab my coffee mug, and walk away toward the break room. Brooke froze on stage. She clicked the remote frantically, pressing the button over and over, but the video kept playing unstoppable. On the 30-foot screen, Brooke herself walked into the frame. The quality was so clear you could see the sweat forming on her upper lip, the nervous energy in her movements, the watch glinting in her hand. The shareholders gasped. It was a collective, sharp intake of breath that sounded like a vacuum sucking all the oxygen out of the room. Brooke's hand, the one holding the champagne glass on stage, began to shake so violently that liquid sloshed over the rim and onto her white suit, leaving a dark stain. The video reached the moment where Brooke looked at my mother's photo. On the screen, she flipped it over with a look of pure, unadulterated hatred, an expression of contempt so raw it was shocking. Then she looked right into the hidden camera, so close her face filled the screen, and gave that cold, calculating, career-ending smirk. The audio, enhanced by Marcus's technical expertise, picked up her whisper perfectly. "Bye-bye, Maya. Enjoy the unemployment line, you pathetic little worker bee." The silence in the ballroom was deafening. 200 people sat frozen, unable to process what they were witnessing. The cognitive dissonance was visible on their faces. The polished woman on stage couldn't possibly be the cold-blooded schemer on the screen, could she? Brooke turned around slowly, staring at the screen as if she could pull the pixels off with her bare hands, as if she could physically stop the truth from being revealed. "This is a fake!" she screamed into the microphone, her voice screeching through the speaker so loudly people winced. "This is a deep fake. Maya did this. She's a hacker. She fabricated this footage to get revenge on me." She looked desperately at Jack, reaching out to him for support, but he had stepped 3 feet away from her, his face a mask of horror and dawning realization. He knew. Everyone knew. The timestamp, the metadata visible at the bottom of the screen, the quality of the footage, it was undeniably real. I stepped out from the shadows of the balcony. The movement caught attention, heads turning to track me as I walked down the grand staircase with measured steps. Every eye in the room followed me. I didn't rush. I didn't say a word until I reached the foot of the stage, looking up at Brooke, who stared down at me like she was seeing a ghost. I didn't look at the shareholders or Jack or anyone else. I looked directly at Brooke, meeting her eyes steadily. Her white suit now looked like a shroud, her perfectly styled hair suddenly seeming disheveled despite not a strand being out of place. "The police are waiting in the lobby, Brooke," I said, my voice calm and steady and loud enough to carry through the silent ballroom without the microphone. "I believe they still have the report you filed against me. They just need to update the name on the warrant. They're very interested in this footage. Something about felony theft and fraud." Jack looked at me, his face pale and stricken, probably calculating the lawsuit exposure and public relations nightmare. We had no idea. If we had known. I looked him in the eye, cutting him off. "You didn't want to have an idea, Jack. You wanted an easy answer. You chose the girl who flattered you at cocktail parties over the woman who did the actual work. You chose charm over competence, and you were willing to destroy my life without a real investigation." A major shareholder, Margaret Chun, a woman who owned 20% of the firm, and was legendary for her no-nonsense approach, stood up. She was in her 70s, built her fortune from nothing, and had a reputation for integrity that was unimpeachable. "This is a disgrace," she said, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. "Security, remove this felon from the building immediately. And Jack, my office first thing Monday morning. We're going to discuss how this happened and who's being held accountable." Brooke tried to run, actually attempted to flee the stage, but hotel security was already there, alerted by Marcus minutes before. As they let her out, she started screaming, ugly, jagged sounds that stripped away the last of her polished persona, revealing the terrified, cornered animal beneath. She looked at me as she was escorted past, her eyes bloodshot with rage and terror and disbelief. "I'll kill you. You destroyed everything. You ruined my life, you vindictive bitch," she shrieked. I didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't show any emotion. "No, Brooke," I whispered as she passed close enough to hear. "You did all the work. You planted the watch. You filed the false report. You gave the performance. I just provided the screen. You destroyed yourself." Jack approached me after the room began to clear, people rushing out to call lawyers and publicists and journalists. Maya, please. We want to make this right. The junior partnership is yours. A 50% raise. Public apology. Complete restoration of your reputation. Name your terms. I looked around the room, the expensive curtains, the crystal chandeliers, the hollow smiles of people who were ready to celebrate my downfall 3 weeks ago, and were now trying to calculate how to profit from the scandal. I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me, the kind of clarity that comes after a storm. No thank you, Jack, I said simply. I've already accepted an offer from Hartman and Associates. They're your biggest competitor, as you know. They saw the footage too. I sent it to them yesterday. They liked my spatial mapping software patents, but they loved my security consciousness and my integrity. They're offering me senior partner track, equity stake, and full creative control over their technology department. I walked out of the hotel and into the cool night air. My phone buzzed insistently. It was a text from Marcus. Check your bank account. The reward for reporting a felony theft of company property over $50,000 just cleared. Also, I quit. Starting Monday at Hartman with you as director of IT. Drinks tomorrow to celebrate. I looked at the balance and smiled for the first time in weeks. $25,000. Combined with my signing bonus from Hartman and Associates, it was enough. I headed straight to the hospital to see my mom, the weight of the world finally blissfully gone from my shoulders. When I walked into her room, she was awake, reading a magazine in the dim light. She looked up at me, saw something different in my face. Maya? What happened? You look free. I sat down next to her bed and took her hand. Mom, I have so much to tell you. But first, your surgery is scheduled. We can afford everything now. The best doctors, the best treatment, everything. I didn't need revenge to be happy, but watching the truth set me free, watching justice happen in real time in front of people who mattered, that was the best promotion I ever received. Sometimes the best career move isn't climbing the ladder. Sometimes it's watching the person who pushed you off that ladder fall further than they ever imagined possible. Brooke was arrested that night. The charges included felony theft, fraud, filing a false police report, and perjury. Her family's lawyers were good, but they couldn't fight video evidence. She took a plea deal, 3 years, possibility of parole after 18 months. Her legal career, the one she'd built on my stolen promotion, ended before it truly began. As for me, Hartman and Associates wasn't just a new job. It was a new beginning, working with people who valued truth over politics, substance over style. And every single day when I walk past my new office, the corner one with the view, I remember that integrity isn't just a buzzword for presentations. It's the foundation everything else is built on. And foundations matter. I'm an architect. I would know.